Hello and welcome to Mr. Game Review Show. Don't forget to subscribe the channel, hit the like button and put a comment below the video. Thank you so much. Last Battle for the Sega Mega Drive, also known as the Genesis in North America, is a side-scrolling beat 'em up released in 1989 by Sega. It was originally based on the Fist of the North Star manga, but due to licensing issues, the characters and story were altered for Western audiences. Let's dive into its main elements. The plot follows Arzik, a warrior in a post-apocalyptic world, on his quest to defeat an evil warlord and rescue his friends. Originally rooted in the Fist of the North Star universe, the game story is disjointed for non-Japanese players due to localization changes. This causes it to lack the emotional punch of the original manga, resulting in a simpler, more generic storyline. Last Battle plays like a standard side-scrolling beat 'em up. Arzik travels through various levels, punching and kicking enemies who appear on screen. The combat is basic, with a limited moveset that relies on repetitive punches and kicks. There's also a power-up feature that briefly makes Arzik stronger, though this feels more cosmetic than meaningful for gameplay depth. A unique feature is the game's maze-like map, which lets you choose paths, unlocking different levels and bosses. However, these choices don't drastically change the gameplay experience and can be confusing due to limited visual guidance. For a game of its era, Last Battle has decent visuals. Character sprites are large and detailed, and the backgrounds do a fair job of depicting the harsh post-apocalyptic setting. However, animations are stiff and repetitive, which detracts from the overall experience. Compared to other beat 'em ups on the Mega Drive, it's visually a bit underwhelming. The soundtrack is a mix of rock-inspired tunes that, while energetic, can quickly become repetitive. The sound effects are minimal, with basic punches and enemy grunts that lack impact, making the combat feel less satisfying. The game is notoriously challenging due to a few factors: limited lives, no continues, and unforgiving enemy placement. With little variety in moves and challenging difficulty spikes, Last Battle can feel more punishing than rewarding, especially for players looking for a fair balance. Last Battle is an interesting historical piece, especially for fans of Fist of the North Star who might be curious to see the localized version. However, for most players, it falls short of being a memorable experience. Its repetitive combat, stiff animations, and lackluster story adaptation make it feel dated even compared to other games of its era. Unless you're a hardcore fan of old-school beat 'em ups or Sega's early Mega Drive lineup, Last Battle may be worth a look more out of curiosity than playability. Last Battle has a total of 4 chapters, each containing a series of interconnected stages that players must navigate. Across these chapters, there are 24 stages in total, each with varying themes and enemy encounters. Last Battle does feature several boss fights. Each chapter has specific stages where players encounter boss enemies who are tougher and require a bit more strategy than regular foes. These bosses serve as gatekeepers to advance in the story, and defeating them is essential to progress through each chapter. However, the boss fights in Last Battle are fairly straightforward. Due to the limited moveset and simplistic combat mechanics, the encounters can feel repetitive and lack the strategic depth found in other beat 'em ups. Generally, players need to focus on timing and spacing, as bosses tend to have extended reach and more powerful attacks. While these bosses add some variety to the gameplay, the limited mechanics and lack of unique attack patterns can make them feel less memorable compared to other games in the genre. Last Battle was not particularly popular, especially outside of Japan. While it did garner some attention initially due to its connection to Fist of the North Star, the game's appeal faded quickly due to its repetitive gameplay, high difficulty, and lack of polish. Players were generally underwhelmed by its stiff controls and limited moveset, especially when compared to other popular beat 'em ups of the time like Streets of Rage or Golden Axe. In Japan, the original version, Hakudo no Ken Shinseki Matsu Kirseishu Densetsu, had a bit more appeal due to its connection to the Fist of the North Star manga and anime. However, the Western adaptation lost some of that appeal when it was stripped of its original characters and storyline, making it feel like a generic post-apocalyptic beat 'em up to Western audiences. Ultimately, Last Battle is remembered more as a cult curiosity rather than a mainstream success. It has a place in Sega's early Mega Drive lineup, but it's typically regarded as a less successful entry compared to other titles from the same era. If you're interested in exploring early Sega Mega Drive games or want to experience Sega's attempt at adapting Fist of the North Star for Western audiences, Last Battle might be worth a look. For fans of the Fist of the North Star manga and anime, there's a bit of novelty in seeing how the source material was altered for Western audiences, even if the localization stripped away much of the original's charm. Last Battle is mostly suited for hardcore retro enthusiasts or those curious about Sega's early attempts at console adaptations.